Hello, welcome back. Another quick Bible study with Pastor Mark from the Word of Life Fellowship Church in Omaha, Nebraska. I hope that your day is going well. I hope you're doing good and feeling well. This probably won't be very long, but probably a passage that doesn't get covered a lot in Bible studies. There are some, but not many. So I'll say this first. If you're waiting, regardless of the circumstance, if you're waiting for the perfect opportunity, chances are you won't accomplish very much in whatever endeavor you're trying to make. The example given in Ecclesiastes chapter 11 is that of a farmer planting seed. Now, you got to picture this. In the modern world, when most of our farms are very, very commercialized, and I don't mean necessarily owned by some business. Yes, most farmers are typically advised by their financial people to create a business, and the business then runs or owns the farm. So that is definitely going to make it look like on paper that almost all farms are commercially owned. In that context, yeah. It's very rare when you have a family that owns a farm and they're not incorporated or they're not an LLC or something like that. So, but the equipment that they use in today's modern farming practices, farmers in the centuries past didn't even dream of such luxuries. Being able to plant 18 or more rows at a single time and therefore plant many, many hundreds of acres in a single day, they would think you were lying and making it up. The reason was they walked behind either an ox or a mule or some kind of a animal pulling a plow, which was typically a single item, cutting the earth, turning it over, and they're walking behind the animal, trying to keep it in a straight line, most likely, and they're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth over this field. And then when they get that finished, now they're going to come back over and they're going to plant. Now, I'm going to use the illustration of wheat, rye, barley, something of that nature. It was a very common crop in the ancient world. It's still a common crop in the modern world. These are. But in those days, they would scatter the seed as they walked. Today, there's a planter pulled behind a tractor or a combine, and it's dropping the seed in lines, in rows, so that it's planted in an order. The reason for that is so that when harvest comes and you come along with the harvest equipment, you're going to be able to go down the rows and harvest it efficiently and so forth. Well, back in the old days, and when Solomon is writing this, Solomon was the writer of Ecclesiastes by and large. After the field is plowed, the farmer comes along, he has a bag of seed over his shoulder most likely, and he puts his hand in the bag and he scatters the seed across the field. So you have to picture that when you're reading this passage, because you'll have a better understanding. So when he's throwing the seed, he's not just dropping it at his feet, he's casting it wide. And the reason is, when he gets to the end of the row, he doesn't have to turn around and come back 2 feet from where he was. He can move over quite a ways and then cast his seed again so that he can cover this field in a timely fashion. And he's throwing that seed, and he's throwing that seed. So when we read this passage, Ecclesiastes chapter 11, and it starts off with an interesting statement, which has, you would think on the surface, well, that doesn't have anything to do with sowing seeds. Pay attention. I'm reading from the New International Version today, the NIV, on my Bible app. Ship your grain across the sea, and after many days you may receive a return. Invest, verse 2, invest in 7 ventures. Yes! Woo! Bumped the camera. Sorry about that. Invest in 7 ventures. Yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. Let's pause there. You don't really know what's going to happen. So invest in 7 ventures. Wait a minute. Do it in 8. Because you really don't know what's going to happen. Ship your grain across the sea, and after many days you may receive a return. Invest. Scatter, scatter, scatter. Verse 4, same chapter, Ecclesiastes chapter 11. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. You have to imagine that guy walking across the field, scattering the seed as far as he can. If it's a super windy day, it may blow his seed who knows where. And therefore, he may not actually be planting his field like he thinks he is. So, if he's considering that, he will never plant. Because there will always be some day where it's going to be a little bit breezy. Or a lot. Or it might start out calm and then it gets that way. Second part of that verse, this is still verse 4. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. Oh no, it's going to rain. Looks like rain. Well, let's not start the harvest today, boys. We'll get rained on. Next thing you know, the birds and the wildlife have come and they've taken much of the harvest and it's fallen over and you're not going to get much. Whoever watches the wind will not plant, and whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. If you're waiting for the perfect opportunity to do whatever venture you try and want to have, you'll never get it done. Or by the time you start, you will have missed so much opportunity, you won't have as much as you think. Verse 5 says, as you do not know the path of the wind. Let me finish that sentence. It starts, this is all one sentence. Let me just start it over with verse 4. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap, as you do not know the path of the wind, or how the body is formed in a mother's womb. So you cannot understand the work of God, the maker of all things. We just don't know everything. We don't know everything. You don't know what the path of the wind's going to be. You don't know if it's going to change direction. You don't know if it's going to stop. You don't know if it's going to get worse. You don't know if it's going to rain or if the clouds are going to just carry on past. You don't know. And we do not know and we cannot understand all the works of God, the maker of all things. So, what is Solomon's advice here? Verse 6. Sow your seed in the morning, and at the evening, let your hands not be idle. In other words, do it again. Sow your seed in the morning, and get back out there in the evening and do it again. For you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well. You just don't know. So do them both. Get out there. Take a risk. Put that seed in the ground. Throw it, cast it, plow that field. Harvest when it's time. Invest in 7 different ventures. No, 8. Do it 8. Because you don't know which is going to do well or if they're all going to do good. But you've hedged your bets. Your odds have greatly improved by doing something. And waiting for the perfect opportunity, it probably won't come. A friend of mine, one of my best friends, Mike Ziegler is his name. We met in college. He was from Michigan. I was from Nebraska, and we met in college in Mississippi. And we had many things in common. We became friends. And he was traveling through this area, or he was going to be. He was on his way to some place out in the West. And he called to one time to, well, I'm getting my stories mixed up. He did come and he stayed the night with us once on his way out west. He was going on business out west. And he broke his trip here, and we had a great visit, had some dinner and fellowship, and he stayed the night in my house, and he left the next morning on his journey. It was great. Prior to that, several years before that, he called. We were talking on the phone, catching up. How you doing? How's everything? He and his wife had a little girl, and they got married about a year or two before me. Mike was in my wedding. I was in his wedding. We were very close friends, very good friends. And he called. We're talking, and they had a little girl, and we were talking about that. And I said, man, we had talking about me and my wife. We were just going to wait until things were better financially and this and that. And he says, well, how many years have you been married? And at that time, it had been about 4.5 years, something like that. He said, we were thinking the same thing, but he said at one point we said, you know what, if we keep waiting for everything to be perfect, we're probably never going to get this done, or we're going to be much, much older. And they didn't want to do that. And when he said that, I was in my kitchen on the telephone. We didn't have cell phones in those days. So I'm sitting on one of those, hanging on the phone that has one of those little twisty cords that stretch. And I'm sitting at the kitchen table on the phone, and I can remember it vividly. And I was looking from my kitchen into my living room. And I thought, you know what? He's right. If you're waiting for the perfect, everything to be just right, it's probably not going to happen, or it's going to be way down the line, and you're going to regret waiting that long. So I had talked to my wife when she got home from work, and over a period of weeks we continued to talk about it and think about it, and we decided, you know what, that's true. It's never going to be perfect. And so almost a year later, my son was born. And then we had my daughter, and then later we had my other daughter. And so if you're waiting for the perfect opportunity, regardless of what it is, planting grain in the field, starting a new venture, starting a new job, changing careers, going back to school, fill in the blank, whatever it might be, if you're waiting for everything to be perfect, it might not be. Sometimes it does happen where it works out that way. But a lot of times it doesn't. If you're waiting until everything's just right, you're not going to accomplish very much. You're not going to have a lot to show for whatever it is you're doing or the time you have in your life. Pastor Mark, you got that out of this passage? Yeah, I did. I hope it's a blessing for you today. I hope that you consider whatever ventures or things you're considering in your life, plans you've been making, that you consider them and say, you know what? I need to go and pray and seek the Lord and help Him Direct me and when to make my decision, when to start this venture, when to do this, when to do that, when to whatever, move out of the old neighborhood, buy a different house, change jobs, when to retire. Do I need to take on a second job? Whatever the venture, consider him awesome. Absolutely. Consider the Lord. Consult with him. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path, Proverbs tells us. So consult with him. But then, stop looking at the wind and the clouds. Start doing. God bless you. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Hope to see you this Sunday, 10:30 at the True by Hilton, the main conference room on the first floor. God bless you. Have a great day.